Hello guys! So, with all the free time we got during the pandemic lockdown, some friends and I decided to create a board game, and this is the result. Since I usually prefer strategy games and being a fan of Lord of the Rings, I asked myself if there was a game like Risk based on Tolkien's world. And it was. But the map seemed kind of odd to me, and I wanted a more customized game just for myself, with a little more depth into Tolkien's world and his diverse races and factions. So my brother, two friends and I started this game that, although it's based on another strategy game, it still possesses many unique features. Like most war strategy board games, the main goal of this game is victory by conquest. You know, every player starts with their territories randomly assigned, you get some troops from turn 1, and then you attack the other players to get new territories, in which the result of a battle is decided by the dice. Then, after every player finishes their attack, you get new troops according to how many territories you have at the end of the round. You also get one card of territory at the end of your turn if you manage to conquer at least one region, so that way you can keep them and exchange them for troops later. In this game, however, every race in Middle-earth has a different skill according to their faction. There is a clear distinction between the good factions and the evil factions, but here you will find 6 different races, each one with different game strategies and custom-made units. For example, the Orc race gets one more troop per turn, since Orcs are well known for always generating armies pretty fast. The Dwarves, masters of masonry, are very good at defense, and they defend with 3 dice instead of the standard 2. Also, they get their castle built for free. The Evil Men, in this case Rune and Dunland, are represented here as nomadic people, and therefore can enter a recently conquered territory with 5 units instead of the standard 3 units. Rohan, people of horses, can mobilize their armies across 3 territories at a time instead of just 1 when regrouping. You can see that each special unit has a different role. For example, Gondor, Rohan and Rune can make use of cavalry, which counts as 3 standard units. Or the Orcs, which have trolls that counts as 4 standard units. Every faction also counts with one single unit of a commander or hero. For example, you get Elrond if you are playing as the Elves, Theoden if you are playing as Rohan, and the Witch King if you are playing as the Orcs. With the exception of Gondor, which can have 2 commanders, Aragorn and Boromir. So the heroes basically add 1 to the results of the dice, so it can give you the upper hand whenever you decide to put him. He dies like every normal unit, and he respawns in your capital on the next turn. The castle has a different function. While most normal troops and heroes can attack and move between the land, once you buy a castle you put it in the strategical territory you would like to defend, like a choke point for example, and it will stay there for the rest of the game. And unlike the other troops, if the enemy somehow takes that territory, the castle doesn't get destroyed, but instead will belong to the faction controlling the land now. The way to use these castles is that you can use them to attack somebody. But if the enemy wants to attack your territory, where you have a castle, he will automatically lose 1 troop. So if the enemy has somehow like 4 troops and declares an attack into your land, he needs to take 1 troop out before he throws the dice. This is to simulate the losses during a siege battle, and that also goes for capital cities, so you need to have that in mind before you attack a stronghold position. To make the player feel more immersed into his own faction, we also introduce capital regions, marked by symbols on the map. Those are unique settlements intended for every faction to motivate the player to expand into the territory he supposedly originated from. Every other territory is divided randomly, but the Orc starts with Isengard and Barad-dûr, those territories were assigned at the start of the game, so the Orc player will have more incentives to consolidate Mordor and Isengard first before expanding somewhere else. The Elves, start with their respective capitals in Rivendell and the Halls of Thranduil. At the same time, these main cities, same as castles, are more difficult to take than a normal territory. But you can decide to make your main base in a region of a different faction if you get a lot of territories there. In case that not every faction gets taken at the start of the game, let's suppose you are playing a game with 4 players instead of 6, the capitals will be divided in an equal amount to the other players. The events card will be drawn before you start your turn, and some of them can change the way you play that specific turn. For example, we got Grima Wormtongue. With this card you can choose any enemy soldier located close to you and it will switch sides. You can also get the help of the Ishtari, when you get Gandalf if you are playing as the good faction, or Saruman if you are playing as the evil forces. With the Black Fleet, you can pick up to 3 troops and attack any territory that is connected by sea. This may all seem too random and confusing, but it was made to add some flavor to the gameplay. There is another way to win this game. While the war rages in all of Middle-earth, Frodo and Sam will have the hard task to travel from Rivendell to Mount Doom. Each turn, the hobbits, represented here by the ring, will advance 1 territory per turn, until they arrive to Mordor, and once they arrive, the winner is decided by the dice. Every player counts how many territories they have, and the one who has the most chooses 5 out of 12 numbers. The second one with most land gets to choose 4 different numbers, and so on, depending on how many players there are, so you throw the dice once and whoever got the number wins. These also work as a kind of timer, so the game doesn't last forever. You have 9 turns to control 35 territories before the rings reach Mount Doom, but most games end before those 9 turns anyway. So in this part of the video I wanted to show you guys how we made the game. We had a lot of fun while doing it and creating the rules, so maybe you can get inspired to create your own strategy game too. I wanted to show you which tools they are and how to use them in case you are interested in knowing the process of drawing a map from zero, 3D printing soldiers and such. The first thing we did was to find a good HD quality map of Middle-earth to work with. We draw some lines over it to divide the territories, we added the potential bridges from one region to another, and then we add the region capitals. We made all of this with a program called Wonderdraft, which was very useful because it was made for Fantasy War map design. Since we needed to print the map in a very big size, for the mountains we used the highly detailed models of Wonderdraft to put over the original ones, and then we'll proceed to erase them after we were done using them as a guide. After that, we divide every territory with thick black lines. And before adding some color, we added some dark layers around the regions to give some depth effect. Then we carefully painted terrain around the mountains separately, which is a cool thing that Wonderdraft lets you do, since we needed more dark tone mountains for Mordor and more greyish or white colors for the mountains surrounding Gondor. So this is a final map before adding the bridges. Notice how the capital cities are marked by a symbol. Of course they are not 100% accurate, but we took some liberties to make the map more strategically even for the sake of gameplay. You can clearly see the rivers, which are supposed to act as a physical barrier, the same as mountains. And then we put bridges to connect every region to another. To make it easier to find every region, we add some sort of mini-map, along with the name of the territory card. Now we want to show you how we made the soldiers. We had to make them very simple, because the 3D printer we used was a very cheap one. Most of them had to be made from zero, but we managed to use some parts from different models we found on the internet, like this castle for example. We just found a cool tower and we based that to create a small fort. So to design them, we first had to use this software called Hero Desktop, which was very useful because we could pick a single body and move it until we got the pose we wanted to use for each soldier. The software has some cool stuff like beards and armor, but most of that you have to pay, so we just took the simple naked model and we created the armor from scratch. To create the armor we use a simple 3D modeling program like Tinkercad, where you can pick and modify any kind of geometrical figure. So with that we create some armor based on what we needed. It just takes a little patience and some imagination, and you can make a whole scale armor using nothing but square, cones and triangles. And then we just assemble all together with the things we already have, and that's the end result. In this case that's Rohirrim. We made two different soldiers for each faction, and each of them took many hours to create in 3D. Some more complex stuff we already found on Tinkercad, like a wolf head that we attached to this helmet. But the rest is just simpler geometrical figures, and we had to keep them models very simple without so many details to be able to print them in a small 3D printer. But I will say they look nice even from a closer look. Now when we started to paint, we didn't have too much experience with it. Of course I saw some miniature painting tutorials like with Warhammer models, but that was just too much detail and money, and we had so many small figures to finish. So we did a very basic paint job with some acrylics and normal brushes. They are far from perfect, but we weren't even going to paint them anyways. We first thought about using different plastic colors with the printer, but we wanted to add a nice touch. For the castles, we had to use other materials and we did a better printing job, since it had so many small details. And we tried to give a unique design to each race, like the castle for Gondor, having some Gondorian architecture as in Minas Tirith, or the castle for Orcs, having that Minas Morgul look in all black. And there you have it. Nowadays you can find tons of great games, which are way more complex and entertaining, but our single goal was to make a game just for ourselves, based on another game we were playing around the time. And while it took more time creating it than we spent playing it, it was too much fun spending hours debating about the rules, how to make the map, and designing the plastic soldiers. I hope we inspire you to give it a try and make your own game. It doesn't have to be the next revolutionary game or something, but it feels very nice playing it knowing you are making it 100% for yourself. I hope you guys like it, and thanks a lot for watching.